Well, on that front, I want to go back to the social media side. Can you discuss some of this TikTok stuff and your opinions on TikTok?
Yeah, so I actually, early on, I remember getting back on TikTok, I think back in 2018 when it first came out. And then what we realized is, you have these different social media platforms, of which I think I was one of the early canary in the coal mines in regards to censorship on social media. I actually sued Twitter 1.0 before it became X, because during my election, we actually caught them suppressing information. And then during my investigations, we actually found out that Twitter, Google, Facebook, Instagram were all working together to suppress information about the 2020 election and using the Department of Homeland Security under CISA, which was actually set up to monitor terrorists. They're using it against the American people, which is completely unconstitutional, wrong. Probably a separate podcast and conversation. But what we found out with TikTok specifically is TikTok is not just an app. It is actually known to be operated and working with the Communist Chinese Party and can be used as a military weapon.
Like Facebook is working with the U.S. government and
correct,
Twitter and
correct.
Right.
But the main difference is that let's say that there is, God forbid, a full-scale conflict with China.
Yeah.
And you have, let's say you have TikTok on your phone. I don't have any social media on my phone. He doesn't have any social media on your phone. You're at the Department of State. No, I'm over at the NSA, whatever it might be. That app being able to access via Bluetooth any information and also to be able to coordinate military movements means that it's now a weapon being used on a mass scale against the American people, and that could protect or potentially hinder our ability to launch a counteroffensive. One of the biggest things is, I don't know if you've ever seen Dark Knight, Batman.
Yeah,
remember that
course.
movie where he had the phone?
And it's geolocating everybody.
That type of technology very much so exists. There was a ruling by the Supreme Court that said that, I think it was back in the 90s, that said that it is their constitutional right to be open to receiving propaganda by a foreign government. And that was actually a ruling. And I think that to be able to receive propaganda from a foreign government. Right. And so I think that this will be an interesting debate at the Supreme Court level, because it's going to bring that back up. But the one thing that you don't have is the ability to, like, first of all, if you're unwillingly, right? Like, do you know that you're receiving that information, or is it propaganda? But then you have this other aspect of it. It's actually a military weapon. And so I'm a firm believer, and you wouldn't want to allow the Communist Chinese to buy up all the farmland next to a military installation and spy on us, right? So I think it's kind of the same level of protection that we take. So, I mean, you have the aspect of, is this, are you interfering with the free markets, whatever it might be, but just based on the briefs that we've received. And I've had these discussions, and I love social media, but the one thing that I do not like is that China is a very much so military threat. And I think that probably in my lifetime, if we don't turn this around, that we might have something kinetic happen with China, and that's dangerous.
I give my opinion, but do you have anything to say?
I guess I kind of, well, I probably disagree with you.
No, I hear your answer, but the problem is, I think it's a really slippery slope, because what about all the silicone chips that are being made outside the United States?
That's a massive problem.
I mean, really what you're saying is that America, in order to solve the complexity and size of the problem, America just needs to become self-sufficient in all areas, and basically become this fiefdom of itself, and don't allow anybody to come in and grab data while we're grabbing data. Like, I think banning TikTok is only going to help Google and Facebook and others. You're picking winners and losers now. If all of this was open source and we could actually see what was going on, if possibly the FTC, the DOJ, and whoever does AML and KYC could agree with every merchant on the planet. There's 52 merchants, 52 million merchants on the planet. The terms and conditions of which, there's a bunch of IQ in this room. Not one of us have ever read the complex terms and conditions of a merchant to consumer contract, right? That's under credit card processing. These are so complex. When we could have one bill of rights on the internet, one bill of rights for e-commerce, and the terms and conditions are all the same for all merchants on the planet. Like, why is it you cannot understand it? What you were talking about was the complexity of TikTok's terms and conditions state that anything connected to TikTok, they can go with keep going. Like literally, Mia could be on TikTok. She can access TikTok now, access data. That's what she was saying.
Yeah, basically anything that has access to the same system or within vicinity of it. And I think that to go in it a step further, when we're talking about, so like, first of all, if you have a government phone, you can't have TikTok on it, right? For good reason. But I think one of the other issues then is that you have this aspect of, again, going back to, are we going to see in our lifetime another world war? And I don't talk about that. I think that if we do not turn things around, yes, I think it's very likely. And it scares me because I have a now baby son who will be likely drafted. They changed the draft laws too, so also women can now be drafted. And I am, as a veteran, I do not want to see our country go down that path, because I think that for too long we've gone down this path and it's hurt a lot of people on all sides. And so I don't want that, but with our current trajectory, I think it's going to happen. I actually just had this conversation recently about Taiwan. Are we going to see China go into Taiwan? I think it's likely before the November election that China does it, and I don't think that we're going to do a damn thing about it.
I mean, what's interesting is, and we can talk about war, but you were talking about being censored by Twitter and Google. Was TikTok censoring you?
I actually was not on TikTok at that point. So I had my platform, but I wasn't extensively using it. And then actually around the same time that I was getting censored on Twitter, so they said that I was pushing disinformation about the Hispanic voting bloc, which I wasn't. But I actually had posted a video, and it was a meme of Elmo on fire. And
where he's in his hands up. I love that.
There's this Elmo meme. So I posted that, and I was like, whenever you talk to someone about border security, right? It was like Elmo in the meme, and they actually removed my posting and locked me out of my account on TikTok
for the Elmo.
It's for the Elmo meme, and so that's when I was like, I'm getting hit. I can't win here. I'm getting hit on all angles. Yeah. So I must be onto something. But after I got elected, then we had the issue of people creating fake accounts of me, and then I think they're literally in other countries trying to get donations. So there's nothing that actually, if they're in another country, I can't do anything if they're trying to scam people with donations saying it's going to my campaign. And so I actually had to work with TikTok to get different accounts taken down, and even on Twitter. So it's been interesting. But the issue is most members of Congress don't utilize social media. So a majority of members actually have their comms teams do it. So when you're talking to some of these older cats about algorithms and shadow banning and all this stuff, they're not fully tracking, which is, again, why I think we need more diverse people in office. But then also, too, you have this aspect of, talking on cryptos, and then also, too, AI. Some of these people are upwards of 70 years old. And so I think they're checked out.
Well, and that's just my fear with TikTok, because I used to be all for banning it maybe 2 years ago. But now I have the realization that, okay, every other social media app is controlled or able to come under the authority of the U.S. government, which means they have the authority to silence someone like you. It's like the classic American problem where both options are terrible, and you shouldn't only be presented with two options, but the option of invasive Chinese technology that is effective and efficient in communication, and that maybe the U.S. government can't just outright ban me, but the Chinese can. And so that's going to have a different algorithm than being banned
like you're seeing, though, these are symptoms of a system that the analogy I would use is it's almost like we built Ferraris and forgot the road. We don't have the roads yet.
Yeah.
So you have the whole internet. The internet came along. This is why I can be so extremely bullish and confident on Bitcoin, because the internet was built by a lot of really smart people. I don't think anybody's going to say, hey, these guys were smart. Jack Dorsey and some of the other really early beginning guys.
The NSA.
Yeah.
Even the NSA. Now, that's a great, okay, let's say that all of them, they completely missed that this was going to be a system that needed monetary movement of funds. And they never even considered that. There's no payment system that was ever built into digital. Guess who, into the Web3, guess who benefited the most? Wall Street finance, banks. Banks are the only entities across the last 20 years that have not been impacted, okay? Stores. Walmart almost went out of business because Amazon, right? So they missed that there's no way to really exchange microtransactions for your time or my time to pay me $2, and that's 35 cents goes straight to Visa and MasterCard. There's minimum fees. They don't understand this is going to turn into a microtransaction world. Trillions and trillions and trillions. You talk about AI. I'm going to have an AI assistant that's going to look like backup, that's going to send money to your assistant in the future.
Wow.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense that we would be using money this way instead of what? Clunky U.S. dollars moving across a credit card system. There's 7 people involved in that transaction. This is hammering these families in unnecessary expenses because the old analog system, needed all these people. The new digital system only needs the consumer and the merchant.
Yeah, the one thing that I don't want, though, is essential back to the CBDCs. Yeah. So that in itself...
Well, we already have that.
Yes, well, but...
It's called the U.S. dollar.
But when you have Congress, when you have Senate wanting to fully control that, and then I can tell you what I'm seeing from the issues that we're having with the intelligence community. Let's take, for example, political targeting. For example, what happened in Canada, right, during COVID, if you step out of line, if they say that you're pushing something that's considered disinformation, and then the ability to just fully shut down and freeze everything, that's the one thing. It's like you have to create an ability for people to still be more powerful and have that currency respected. And so that's why I think when people ask me, I'm by no means an expert on Bitcoin, but when people ask me, do you support it versus a CBDC? Absolutely. That's why.